There comes a time when silence becomes betrayal, not just of others, but of the voice buried deep within you. That voice, faint, trembling, yet unyielding, has been trying to scream through the noise of mediocrity, through the lull of conformity, through the soft prison of comfort. And if you've ever woken up in the dead of night, heart pounding, soul aching, you know exactly what that voice feels like. That is your fire. And if you don't feed it, it will die. And when it dies, you will remain, but only as a shadow of what could have been. You were not sent here to merely exist. You were not crafted by divine hands just to pay bills, scroll screens, and pass time. You were built for fire, built for boldness, for truth, for unrelenting pursuit. You were designed not to blend in, but to burn so brightly that even the stars envy your defiance. But the world teaches you to dim, to play small, to wait for permission, and in waiting, your fire flickers, your soul rusts. Your dream, once alive in your chest like a lion pacing its cage, shrinks into a whimper behind your ribs. Let me say it plainly. You either live with fire or you die with regret. And regret is the slowest kind of death. It doesn't kill the body. It murders the spirit, one what if at a time. Do you think Carnegie built his empire with caution? Do you think Harriet Tubman moved in hesitation? Do you think Martin Luther King Jr. stood on the steps of history and whispered? Number. They lived with fire. The kind that scorches through resistance. The kind that does not ask, what if I fail? But demands, what if I never try? We live in an era where the greatest tragedy is not poverty of the pocket, it is poverty of passion. People are rich in opinions, but bankrupt in purpose. Surrounded by endless information, but starving for inner conviction. They have everything but fire. And a man without fire is not alive. He is walking, talking, breathing, but not living. Mindset is not a game. It is war. And if your thoughts are not weapons in your hand, they will be shackles on your feet. The greatest enemy you will ever face is not out there. It's the voice inside your head whispering, stay safe, stay small, stay silent. That voice is a liar. That voice is a thief. That voice is regret in disguise. Burn it down. Edison failed over 1,000 times before he brought light to the world. But what the world called failure, he called feedback. What they mocked, he molded. That is fire. Not in the hands, not in the words, in the mindset. The relentless refusal to die with the music still in you. You want to change your life? Start here. Believe like your life depends on it, because it does. Clarity of belief is the foundation of fire. Doubt may visit, but it cannot be allowed to live. Do you think Ford created the automobile industry because he had perfect certainty? Number. He believed when others doubted. He held a vision so clear, it blinded every excuse. Clarity is not a gift. It is forged in the furnace of solitude, of silence, of daring to ask, why am I here? Most people will never stop long enough to ask. They sprint from one distraction to the next, terrified of the question that might shake the foundations of their hollow life. But those who find clarity, those who stare into the abyss and wait for the echo, they come back not empty, but whole. The vision is not just what you see, it's what you burn for, what you bleed for. A man without vision is a ship without a sail, a flame without oxygen, a story with no plot. But when you dare to see with your spirit, when you dare to name what haunts you in your sleep and pursue it with the heat of 1,000 suns, nothing can stop you. Purpose is not something you stumble upon. It is something you surrender to. It doesn't whisper, it roars, but only to those who are quiet enough to listen. Mother Teresa once said, "We are not called to be successful, but faithful. Faithful to the fire, to the mission, to the unseen." That is purpose. It does not shout in applause, it stands in the shadows and whispers, "Keep going." Discipline is the bridge between purpose and power. It is not sexy, it is not popular, it does not win headlines or hashtags, but discipline is the silent architect of every great life. It is the daily bloody beautiful war you wage with your weaker self, the part of you that wants to quit, to coast, to crumble. That part must be buried again and again. That part does not belong in the life you are building. Look at the legends, Jordan, Mandela, Beethoven. They were not just talented, they were forged in discipline. They bled for mastery. They bowed not to motivation, but to mission. They did what had to be done, especially when they didn't feel like it, because they understood emotion is a visitor, discipline is a soldier, and soldiers do not flinch at discomfort. They march toward it, and then action. Relentless, imperfect, tireless action. You don't wait to feel ready, you move anyway. You don't ask if it's hard, you ask if it's worth it. You don't wait for clarity, you create it in motion. So many die in their comfort zone, buried beneath their own hesitation. Paralysis by perfection. But you were made for more. You were made to leap, to risk, to build. With trembling hands and unwavering spirit. The world does not need more spectators. It needs warriors, builders, dreamers who do not just post quotes, but live them. People who will bleed in the dark so their future can shine in the light. Action is the heartbeat of fire. You must keep moving, keep fighting, keep striking matches, even in the rain. Gratitude is not weakness, it is fuel. It is the art of seeing miracles in the mundane, of finding joy not when the world applauds, but when your soul whispers, "Thank you for one more day." Gratitude turns lack into abundance. It takes pain and baptizes it into purpose. Look at every scar, every failure, every betrayal, and say thank you. Thank you for the fire. Because the fire is how gold is made. You want transformation? Then bleed in the process. Because resurrection does not come without crucifixion. Growth does not come without breaking, and greatness does not come without gratitude. Adaptability is not a strategy, it is survival. The storm does not ask for your permission before it comes. The winds of life will change direction without warning, without apology. And if you build your house on comfort, on routine, on the illusion of control, the storm will tear you apart. But if you build it on fire, on the willingness to bend without breaking, to change without losing your soul, then the storm becomes your training ground. Look to nature. The tree that refuses to bend in the hurricane is the one that snaps. But the bamboo, it bows, it yields, and when the storm passes, it rises stronger than before. This is the heart of adaptability, not surrendering your vision, but surrendering your rigidity. Life will not be what you expect. People will fail you, plans will fall apart, but the fire adapts, it consumes, it reshapes, it finds a way to burn through anything. Resilience is not about bouncing back. It's about breaking forward. It's not returning to who you were, but becoming someone you've never been. Resilience is born in the desert, when the water runs out and the sun scorches everything familiar. It is the voice that says, "I will crawl if I must, but I will not stop." It is the mother who keeps loving, the soldier who keeps marching, the dreamer who keeps building, even as the world laughs. Abraham Lincoln failed in business, lost elections, faced deep depression, but he kept walking toward purpose like a man possessed by destiny. Why? Because fire does not ask for a smooth path. It burns through obstacles. It does not avoid pain. It turns pain into power. Resilience is not about being untouched by the world. It's about being tempered by it, like steel in the forge, like a diamond under pressure. And you, yes, you, were built to endure. You've been through darkness that should have buried you, betrayals that should have broken you, nights so long, even the stars seem to forget your name. But here you are, breathing, standing, fighting. That is not weakness. That is holy resilience. That is divine defiance. And now, learn. Learn not just with the mind, but with the marrow. The wise are not those who know the most. They are those who remain teachable. Ego is the enemy of fire. Pride is the extinguisher of growth. If you want to rise, fall in love with humility, with being a student, with asking better questions, not having all the answers. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. Imagine if he had let that define him. If he had stopped there. But no, he learned. He evolved. He saw rejection not as a wall, but as a redirection. That's the mindset of fire, of greatness, of transformation. Every mistake you've made was a lesson wrapped in bruises. Every failure was a teacher in disguise. Life is a brutal, beautiful university, and every scar you carry is proof that you are learning, that you are awake, that you are alive. But learning is not enough. Knowledge without courage is paralysis. You must act on what you know. You must apply, test, risk. Wisdom is not what you've heard. It's what you've lived. And that brings us to the final ignition point, the moment where everything converges. The fire, the mindset, the belief, the discipline, the action, the gratitude, the resilience, the adaptability, the learning. It all comes down to one choice. Will you live with fire or die with regret? Because regret doesn't come in the moment of failure. It comes years later when you look back and realize you never tried, that you waited too long, that you listened to fear more than you listened to your calling. Regret is standing at the end of your life with a full heart and an empty legacy. You were not made for that. You were made to rise, to roar, to shake the earth with your footsteps, to be remembered not for what you avoided, but for what you dared to pursue. The time for hesitation is over. The time for apologies is done. The fire is calling, so wake up, stand up, step forward. Let the world watch as you break the chains. Let the silence be shattered by your steps. Let fear know your name. Let mediocrity feel your absence. Let regret be buried beneath your ashes. You have one life, one. Don't you dare waste it waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect approval. There is no perfection, only purpose, only passion, only fire. And if you have that, if you live with that, then you will die empty. Not of potential, but of fulfillment. You will stand before your Maker, not with excuses, but with evidence. Evidence that you lived, that you burned, that you gave it everything. You see, the fire isn't out there. It isn't waiting in some distant city, buried in some dream job, or locked behind the applause of others. It's already inside you, quietly smoldering behind your ribs, waiting for you to remember who you are. But fire cannot be maintained with comfort. It cannot be sustained with compromise. It needs friction, it needs fuel, it needs fight. Every single day, life will hand you a match. The question is, will you light your soul on fire or let the moment burn out in your hand. The ones who change the world aren't the ones with the most talent. They're not the ones born into power or privilege. They're the ones who are willing to set themselves ablaze with purpose so that the rest of us might see a way forward in the dark. They don't need permission to act. They don't wait for conditions to be perfect. They rise in the storm. They roar in the silence. They carry the torch when everyone else has gone cold. History remembers those who refused to settle, who refused to shrink, who looked into the void and screamed, "You will not have me." They fell. They failed. They were mocked, laughed at, ridiculed, but they kept going. Mother Teresa didn't serve the dying in Calcutta because she thought it would bring fame. She did it because she saw the divine in the forgotten. Her fire was not loud, but it was relentless. It was the kind that does not burn out, the kind that lights others. She didn't live for comfort. She lived for conviction. That kind of life doesn't end when the body does. It echoes through time, and so must yours. This world will try to sell you 1,000 versions of success, most of them wrapped in shallow smiles, cheap thrills, and quiet desperation. Don't buy them. The real prize is not applause. It is alignment. It is waking up and knowing your breath is not wasted. Your pain is not wasted. Your presence is not wasted. It is used fully, fiercely. That kind of life doesn't come from following the crowd. It comes from setting a new course, carving your name into the stone of discipline, chiseling your soul into the architecture of impact. It comes from doing hard things, saying true things, becoming whole things, not for the world's approval, but for the fire within. And yes, it will be hard. It's supposed to be. Fire does not come cheap. It will cost you your excuses, your comfort, your complacency. It may cost you relationships. It may cost you validation. It will burn down every illusion you've been clinging to. And that's exactly what it's meant to do. Because you cannot rise while clinging to your cage. But what you gain in the ashes is worth everything. You gain yourself. You gain peace. Not the fragile kind that depends on circumstance, but the unshakable kind that comes from knowing you gave it all. You left nothing buried. You spoke the truth when it trembled in your throat. You built something eternal with fleeting time. You lived, and if, on the last day, your heart beats its final rhythm, may it not whisper, "I was safe." May it thunder, "I was fire." Let the world feel your heat. Let fear feel your defiance. Let your children, your friends, your future look at your life and say, "Here lies a soul who did not settle, who did not sleep through their potential, who loved, who lost, who fought, who gave, who lived ablaze." You were not made to watch the world from the sidelines. You were not made to blend in. You were made to blaze a trail so wild, so holy, that heaven itself leaned closer just to watch. So pick up the pieces, stand in your truth, burn the bridges to your past limitations, and walk, no, run, toward the life that calls you. No more waiting, no more wishing, no more hiding behind someday. Someday is a thief. It steals from the fire. It feeds the regret. Today is the only altar we are promised. So light the match, step into the heat, and never look back. This is not a speech. It is a summons. Live with fire or die with regret.